Anatomy of a Callback. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife, Brooke. Timing was off this week. And now on to our topic, Anatomy of a Callback. Before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to Linda Boston for suggesting this topic, and also a shout out to fellow actor and teacher Angela Davis because, well, she rocks. So now really on to our topic. For context, one of the reasons that I haven't done a video on this topic of callbacks is because, well, quite frankly, we don't get a lot of them here in the Southeast US for TV and film. Commercials almost always have callbacks of some sort, but in the TV and film industry here in the Southeast, we almost always get booked off the first tape, and rarely do we ever get a callback. Now, we have seen an uptick in virtual auditions since 2020. Gee, I wonder why. And I suspect that will continue. But no matter what market you're in, this is a good topic to cover, so that's why we're doing it today. And to frame my discussion on callbacks, I want to first start with the analogy of hiring a caterer for an event such as a wedding reception. If you were planning a wedding reception and were deciding on the menu from a caterer, or you still had multiple caterers you were choosing between, then you might start with a tasting of the menu to get a feel for what will be right for your event. Now, this is where the analogy gets good. Once you've decided on a menu and the event happens, what are your expectations? Do you want that caterer to have changed the ingredients and added something special to their menu without telling you? Or do you expect them to deliver exactly what was at the tasting? Now, the analogy might break down from there, so we'll stop with the analogy and then just translate this directly to callbacks. In short, you need to bring the same ingredients to your callback that you brought to that first audition, whether that first audition was in person or a self-tape submission. Your point of view, tone, rhythm, pacing should all be the same, and your wardrobe should be the same, assuming it's still clean. That is, if your wardrobe was intentional at that first audition. So if you were scrambling to get to that audition or to tape that audition for that lawyer and you didn't have time to go get your suit, well, then at the callback, take that time to wear the suit. But if you were intentional about your wardrobe at the first audition, then wear that same thing to the callback. So, all of the choices that you made that led to that original performance should remain constant when you go to the callback. That's why they called you back. They liked what they saw. So why would you change it? In fact, the only thing that really should change is that since you presumably have more time now with the script, you should be off book at that callback. And we'll talk about whether to still hold the script or not later in the video. So don't bait and switch them with new choices that came to you after the first audition. But hey, Matt, what if I submitted multiple takes to my first audition? Which one do I go with? The short answer is just make the choice that you would want to do for 8 to 14 hours on set. Because keep in mind that the decision maker, the producer, director, or whoever else is attending that callback may not have seen all of your takes. Because casting has the right to show them all of your takes or only show them one of your takes. If you still need clarification, like whether or not to do the accent for the character, then you shouldn't have fear or anxiety about asking that question in the room. Just ask. But consider this. If you're asking for way too much clarification up front, which choice to do, whether you should sit or stand, and all the nuances of your character, you're giving them too much power. Power that they actually don't want to have. They want to see your vision of the role, which is why oftentimes if you ask a question like, so do you want me to play the character more like A or B? They will say, well, just show us what you want and then we'll talk. See, this is the last time you'll ever have 100% control over the character. So enjoy this moment and maybe don't ask so many questions ahead of time. Then after your first brilliant take, it's time for collaboration, assuming they ask for a second take. That's when they can start shaping your performance to fit their vision. Or maybe they just want to play around with you. So however you approach this issue of which take to go with, just do it with confidence and not with fear and trembling. And just to clarify, up to this point, I've given you advice on what to do in the absence of extra information. That is, nothing has changed between the audition and the callback. Of course, if they give you additional information, read it, digest it, and put it into practice before you get to that callback. For instance, a few months ago, I had a Zoom callback, and the day before the appointment, I was told that this particular director loves improv and plans to incorporate that during the film. mindset shift. So you better believe that I worked on some ad libs and was ready for different cues that might come from the reader or anything else that might pop up in the moment. But incidentally, I was also ready to just bring the same thing I brought to that first audition, sans improv. You really need to be malleable to new information, even if it happens right at the beginning of the callback session. For instance, they gave you 5 scenes to prepare, but right before you start, they say, so we're just going to do scene 3 today. If that happens, don't get angry. Just adjust. What about other callback advice, Matt? Glad you asked. A callback is a win. Casting likes you. Producers or someone on that side of the table likes you and potentially wants to work with you. And that's why they're investing their time on you. So to reciprocate, invest time on researching who's going to be at that audition. If it's the director, what else have they done? If this is season 3 of a TV show, make sure you've seen an episode, at least one episode of the show. If your character shares a screen with at least one of the other leads, then you should know who's casting those roles, assuming that information has been released. All of that research doesn't necessarily make for a better performance, but it makes for a much better impression in the room if they get to chit-chatting with you before or after your performance. Judd Apatow said in his masterclass that the people on that side of the table, they're nervous about their project. Millions of dollars are on the line, and they don't know if it works yet. So if you come into that room nervous or lackadaisical, then they might think that either A, you can't carry this load, or B, you just don't care either way about being part of this project. On the flip side, if you come in armed with this knowledge and enthusiasm, it shows that you really do want to work with them and are excited about this project. And that can go a long way to putting them at ease and ultimately them wanting to work with you. And to round out this discussion on callbacks, let me cover a couple more topics. First, should you carry the script in the room? Well, my philosophy is you should always have the script with you, whether or not you actually hold it during the performance. Different casting offices can have different opinions here, so know the casting office before arriving. But if you decide to not carry the sides in at all, I guarantee the following will happen. Hey, Matt, so we're not going to do the first 2 scenes, but on scene 3, we're going to start on the bottom of page 31, and we're not going to have the reader read the Chuck lines, just the Sally lines, so just adjust accordingly. Okay? Great, whenever you're ready. And if you don't have the script with you, you're starting to freak out at this moment. But if you do, you just pull up the script, go, oh, okay, cool. And then you can either put it back in your pocket or set it down if you don't want to carry it. Another hint, always arrive at least 10 minutes early and expect to be there at least an hour. Don't complain about the time. And if your callback's on Zoom, double, triple, quadruple check your internet connection, your audio and video settings, because you don't want technical stuff to be the thing that throws you off your game at this callback. And finally, if it's in person, do not try to eavesdrop on how the director coaches the previous actors in their performance. A good director is merely sensing the qualities of that person and trying to amplify them, the qualities that seem to fit the character. And those qualities are unique to that human, not necessarily to you. So don't go changing your approach based on what you're hearing the director tell other actors auditioning for your role. You'll just end up getting in your own way and you'll kick yourself later. Just be yourself. It's the only option. And it's the easiest one. Oh, I lied. One more thing. Don't drive yourself crazy over the meaning of, I only got 1 take in the callback. Or, I got 3 takes. Is that a good sign? Because I've booked roles in all different types of scenarios. I've booked roles where I only did 1 take at the callback, and the director didn't even really seem to like me. And on the flip side, I had the privilege of auditioning for Jonathan Demme for a pilot where he made me go through 5 different glorious takes for this 1-page role. I had such a great time, and I didn't book that. And I've experienced everything in between on that spectrum. The number of takes they have you do has no hidden meaning, so relax. Whew, wow, we've covered a lot, and yet we've only scratched the surface on some of these subjects. So if you want to continue the discussion, please leave a comment below or email us. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.